Hi, welcome to Drama Means, and today we talked about the shows that we dropped.
Shows that we couldn't bear to complete. Because today, drama means cliches. Drama means poor execution. Drama means cutting your losses.
So today we're going to talk about some of the shows that we dropped in 2023.
I think in our wiser, older age, we've come to realize that you don't have to finish everything you start. I think finishing everything on your plate was an idea instilled in us from our parents, and it's wrong. And sometimes you just need to just get out of there. Just go. Like, why are you wasting your time hour after hour on something that just is no good?
Yeah. So we're not going to be really doing much of a review per se, like not a full review of each of the shows that we're going to talk about. But we will give you some kind of explanation on why we decided to drop it.
Because honestly, we don't remember that much about some of these shows. We watched 2, 3, 4 episodes of some of them. I'm like, enough. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are like, well, you didn't give it a chance. You know, you need to get more through it more before dropping. But if you watch 1 or 2 episodes and you drop it, it's like not fair to the show. Which I understand that thought, but also like I don't want to waste my time. I'm not enjoying myself, and I watch dramas to enjoy myself. I watch dramas to kind of unplug or kind of like decompress, and I just don't want to watch a drama where it's either going to stress me out or I'm just like really think it's bad or it's just not fun for me to watch.
No, but I mean, there's a rule even in like as a professional writer. You're told over and over again, like you have to hook your reader by the end of the first page. Like most people reading your script, like if they're an executive or if they're an agent when you're first starting out, they're not going to read past page 10 of your script. So it doesn't matter if you're brilliant on page 45. If you're not brilliant in the first 10 pages, no one cares. So I'm unwilling to watch. Oh, you have to watch till episode 7 and then it really picks up. You want me to watch 7 hours of garbage to get to something that I'm so angry by the time I get to episode 7, I'm not going to appreciate the thing anyway? Nope. I'm unwilling to do it.
Yes. Okay, so as we kind of gave you that disclaimer.
Oh, also, we should probably say, these are our opinions. If you loved these shows, don't take it personally. Drama's very subjective. We all get to like, and maybe you just love one of the actors so much that you can see past all the faults. We can't. That's our problem, not yours. So hopefully just sit back, relax, be entertained by the banter. It's just our opinions, that's all.
So the first show we're going to talk about is Till the End of the Moon.
And which one was that again?
That is the one where the guy basically is the Demon King and he goes and wrecks the heavenly realm. And the one girl who supposedly is like a really weak minor fairy or minor spirit is the one to be able to destroy him or save, go back in time and save the heavenly realm and possibly kill the Demon King in order to save the heavenly realm. Right.
So this is like Demon King throws tantrum, murders everyone, and then she goes back in time before he's the Demon King to basically like kill his demon core or not let his demon core mature or something. And then, I remember this one now.
Yeah, so this one, I actually have the intention of going back to possibly finish it. And I know that the 2 actors, Lo Yan-shi and Bailu, like they've been in a previous drama and everyone loves them. So the previous drama that everyone loved and think they're like the most amazing couple ever, I actually hated. I also dropped that back in the day. And
What was that called?
It's something like Sweet. Like Love is Sweet or something like that.
Well, Love wasn't sweet enough for you to watch the whole thing.
So the thing is, I actually really like Lo Yan-shi. I think he's a good actor. Although he tends to play like very similar roles, especially when it comes to like these costume dramas. His roles are very similar. Like he basically made a huge name for himself. It was like a career breakthrough when he did the villain character of Ashes of Love. since then, he's kind of been typecasted, especially in those costume dramas. But Love is Sweet, the one that he previously did with Bailu, which is the female lead of Till the End of the Moon, that was modern day. But it was just like, I don't know, I couldn't get through it. I thought it was really cringe of like how he like manipulates her. And then, so I dropped that one. Everyone loves them. So now, fast forward to Till the End of the Moon, they're in it together again. Everyone says they have amazing chemistry. This did really well. Like, I don't know if they'd go by ratings or whatever, but popularity-wise, Till the End of the Moon did very well.
I mean, I will say the things that I didn't like about it was not the actors. Like, I didn't really have a problem with him or her as actors in this. I don't think they did a bad job with what they were given. My problem is everything else. The premise, the execution, the story, the characters, everything else was wrong with it. So I don't have any problem with the actors necessarily in this. I don't think they're bad.
Yeah. So I do have to admit that everything that I've watched by Lewin, I cannot finish. I don't know what it is, because I really want to like her, because I think she's gorgeous, like amazingly beautiful. I don't think she's a bad actress, but there's something about everything that she's been in I have not been able to complete.
No, that's strange. Was she bad choice of material, maybe? Maybe.
So I don't know. Yeah, so that was my little disclaimer on, my feelings about the actors and things like that.
So what didn't you, what I would say on a list of pet peeves for this show, what was on the top of your list? Like, what made this really hard to watch?
So I'm going to start, because we only watched like a few episodes. I don't know, maybe like 15 or 16 episodes, I think.
It was too many.
We watched a lot compared to like some of the other ones where we only watched like one or two. What really bothered me was, in the beginning, compared to other dramas that's in the same genre, they really start, other dramas, they start very like exciting and like you're really pulled in, and either for action or for like the acting or whatever it is, but they like, it's like the first scene is usually like almost like heart, like it makes your heart beat.
Yeah, pull you in within the first 10 pages, like get us into the show.
Yeah. So in this one, I felt like the beginning, it was a lot of explanation. It was a lot of like voiceover, and then a lot of Loyan, she's standing around and being menacing, and then like there's a lot of like CG action, which is so boring to me. I hate CG action, because literally it's like the person standing there and then they're just like grr with their face, and then they have CG, and it's like a whole other figure fighting. So it's basically an actor standing there and then just staring at air. And I hate CG fighting so much. And this show, it started out with just a bunch of CG bullshit, and I hated it.
Well, it's interesting because Blood of Youth, which we talked about on the last episode, did some CG fighting, but it felt like they did it in the right way because the characters interacted with the CG. Like even the kid we made fun of with the box of swords who just kind of stood there and waved his hands, but even he had to get up on wires and interact with his CG, and it was well done. This felt like you were watching a cartoon. Like the first battle, I was like, why isn't this show animated? Yeah. Like, why isn't the show just an anime? I don't understand why this is live action, because 90% of the stuff on screen is just computer-generated dust. I hate mind fighting. I'm telling you, every time someone pitches mind fighting, I want to kill them.
It's so boring. It's, like, not fun to watch. I don't understand it. Why people, like, it's just, and you know what? It just, like, it kind of downgrades your actor, because, like, if you've ever seen Lo Yanxi, he does really well on wires. He's beautiful. He started out as a ballet dancer. He can fucking fight. Like, he makes fighting look beautiful. Give him the opportunity. Not just let him freaking stand there, because, like, that just, like, makes him look useless.
No. And it's hard, like, as an actor, like, what is he looking at the director going, so what do I do? Just, like, stand here? Like, I can like wiggle my left cheek and then wiggle my right cheek and then squint and then tighten my jaw. And it's like, I mean, you're really deep into the actor bag of tricks face acting handbook here. And it's like, so you just want to do a bunch of wide shots while I stand here?
Yeah, it's so frustrating. I hate it. It's bad filmmaking. It's cheap, you know, and it's not cheap like money-wise because CG is super expensive, but like whereas Blood of Youth, they spent their money really well and they made it really engaging, you know, and like the characters, like they bond, and like in this one, the money spent on this was just like, it's aesthetics, but it's not practical.
It's empty calories.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, empty calories most of the time is like good because it like satisfies you. Like if I'm going to eat a cupcake, you know, it's yummy, but this, it's not yummy at all.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't. And honestly, I think for these productions, I actually do think these CG battles are cheaper than putting all the actors up on wires and choreography and the amount of time it takes. You just think about how much time the crew sits around while you rig. That costs so much money because you have props and you have people and you have locations. CG is just a nerd sitting behind a computer and you can waste his time all day long. And so I think on the cost benefit of these, I do think they use the CG as a crutch, especially these ones that are very fantastical and very cartoony. They don't have to make them real to life, so that's not as expensive to create. I do think they use these CG battles as a cost-cutting device so they can tell a huge story on a very little budget.
Yeah, okay. I can see that. But also, I am very, like, disappointed with this one in terms of, like, quality. It does seem like it's quality-wise, like, from lighting to, you know, the action. I was expecting some, like, really big budget, beautiful production. Maybe the money all went to the actors. I don't really know. But it was just, I had such anticipation for it. I was excited to watch it. I was like, when they announced that it was, you know, going to air, I was like all for it. You know, the day it airs, like episode 1, I'm in.
Well, this one, I think you sent me the trailer 2 or 3 times. You're like, this is the one we're going to watch next. This is the one. And you're like, you'd sent me the trailer and different teaser trailers and stuff. Like, you were really stoked.
Yeah, and it just really made me sad.
My main problem with this one is the whole premise. I don't like the situation they put either of the characters in. So they put the Demon Lord guy in the situation where he's constantly bullied. Like, no one likes a bully. So, like, it makes him an underdog immediately.
But as we were talking about, when we were talking about Yuruma, how, like, the underdog was really well formulated, I feel like this is, like, such a forced underdog. They are deliberately making you cry and like feel for him in such a generic, like, cliche way. And it's like you see this over and over again in all of like the dramas that talk about bullying. We understand that being bullied fucking sucks, but also this feels so coerced. Like, it's not.
No, it feels like something we've seen 1,000 times in an after-school special from the 1990s. It's like a PSA for, like, bullying's bad. We know that. We know bullying's bad. You shouldn't bully other people. And kids shouldn't bully each other. And it happens. And it sucks. And it can destroy lives. But the way they executed it was, like, a little eye-rolly in the fact there was no nuance to it. It was like, hey, he's the weird kid. Let's bully him. He's an outcast in our kingdom. We're allowed to bully him. And then they were just openly bullying him, which to me rarely happens as adults. Like, it maybe happens when you're in high school or grade school where you're like openly bullied by the kids and no one was willing to stand up for you. But as adults in the real world, so rarely do people openly bully you with no worry for repercussion for the bullying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everyone was just so comfortable bullying him that it was so over the top.
Yeah, that's the word. It's over the top. And it's just like, it was like the writer was like, what can we do that was like, it's just so like exaggerated, you know? And not that I understand it's drama, everything's exaggerated anyway, but like it's just...
It doesn't need to be cliche. It can be exaggerated, it can be heightened. We always use the word heightened, like how do you make it the most tense version of the thing, because you do want people to feel the drama. And so it's like, oh, how can we heighten it? But then there is a point where it's just, even in American TV, where you're like, and then the whole city's gonna burn. And you're like, okay, right. So the whole world has to explode in order for this character to care about what's going on. It just gets stupid. Yeah. And I think that's where this one went. It just went so over the top stupid. And it'll also say, like, bullying as the reason to become a mass murderer who, like, murders the entire realm, like the entire planet. Isn't that great of a story structuring, character building thing? Like, I need a little more than that. It really feels like it's just too simple A to B. I don't care.
Yeah. If the thing is, it diffuses your character's, like, likability.
Absolutely.
So he no longer is an underdog because he's a murdering fuckhead. Yes, he was bullied, but that doesn't justify being a murderer. You know, like a lot of people in this world have been bullied. It's a traumatic tragedy, but they don't just go out and murder people.
No, not murder people, murder everyone.
Murder everyone in the world.
And in this show, it kept flashing to, like, his predilection to murder people. Like, it was like option number one. It wasn't like fight back, stick up for myself, or like let me find allies and try to like overcome my obstacles. Like, he literally is like, I'm being bullied, I should murder everyone. That was like plan one. Which means inside your heart of hearts, no matter if you were bullied or not, if that's where your mind goes, that's in you already. Like you always say, under stress, the real you comes out. Under success, the real you comes out sometimes.
Yes, so that's the thing. The whole reason why that's his plan one is because of his demonic core, or like his bone, it's in his bones, like literally.
Yeah. His demon bone.
His demon bone. And so that's the whole thing, was like she had to wreck his demon bone in order for him to have...
She had to make sure his demon bone did not get erect. She had to keep his demon bone nice and flaccid so that his demon bone didn't get an erection and kill the whole universe.
Yes, we're old, but we are also immature.
But that's my whole point is he has this in him. He has this demon core, demon boner in him already. Which kind of makes the bullying beside the point. Like, really. Like if he wouldn't have been bullied as bad, if he would have just been living and had a hard life, like you do in the ancient times, life sucked. We didn't have antibiotics. Like, life sucked in the ancient times. You couldn't catch an Uber. Like, life sucked. So even if his life just kind of sucked, I still think he becomes a murdering fuckhead.
Yeah.
So that's why I can't get behind his character at all, because the whole time I'm watching it, you're trying to make me say, oh, look at his situation. No wonder he became the monster he became. And I'm thinking the whole time, it doesn't matter the situation. This character would become a murdering fuckhead no matter what.
Yeah, I agree with that. But also, you know, on the other side, her character. Like, is there any character more stupid than her character? I just don't understand. Like, she's like, oh, realizing I'm the fucking reason this guy has been bullied so harshly, and I'm the fucking bully. So why would it take so long for her to stop bullying him? Or at least just like start being nicer. Yes, she has this preconceived notion that he's the demon king and he wrecked the whole heavenly realm. But when you're there and you realize he's been bullied and you are the cause of it, the immediate logical thing is to stop being the one that bullies him.
I know, I was screaming at the TV like, how so many episodes where like you're like, just stop bullying him is the solution. And she's just like, it's weird that we're all so mean to him. Oh my gosh, should I be this mean? And you're like, no, you shouldn't be this mean. And also, yes, I get it. She watched the guy with this face on wipe out her entire family and entire realm. Like, she watched everyone get murdered by the person that has this face. So there would be trauma associated with just seeing his face. But after 7 episodes, maybe, after all the time they've spent together where she's realizing the body she's inhabited is like the worst human. And she's like, oh, wow. Like, and she says that. She's like, I'm horrible. Like, because everyone around is scared of her. No one wants to like tell her no. She's like, I'm a horrible person. She has to reset her point of view of the whole thing and have to go, oh man, I'm the cause of this. Maybe I could change the course of history here. The whole point of going back in time is changing the course of history. And it never occurs to her she should change the course of history for like 10 episodes. It's like, hey, maybe if you weren't the worst human in the world, things would turn out a little bit different. And even if she didn't want to do that as a character, it at least had to like occur to her.
Yeah. Way
earlier than it does, because we've all seen what we've been talking about, the cliche kind of like PSA, bullying is bad. Like, we've seen that thing as a society. We understand that bullying can push people beyond rational thought. We all get that. We're watching the show as human beings. So every audience member has to be going, stop bullying him. Like, there's not one audience member that's like, no, I think she should keep bullying him. That's probably a good idea. But for episode after episode after episode, we're watching her not figuring out. And the audience at home is so far ahead of this character. You're like, is she dumber than a brick? And I can't decide when I think about this drama who pisses me off more, if it's his character or her character. Because they're both so freaking stupid that I'm like, can they both just die? And we just pick up with the secondary characters? Because I don't care about these two at all.
Yeah. But also, like, what really, the main part that, like, made me stop watching it is when he, like, is mad at her. I don't remember the reason why he gets mad at her. So in order to get back at her, he starts, like, letting her half-sister, like, be by his side. And he knows everything. He knows exactly what kind of person she is. And he's still like, let me put her by my side. Like, I hate those scenarios. And later when we talk about another show, which is like literally the same thing, where like, you know you have feelings for one person and then you go date another person. That pisses me off so much, and it's just so ridiculous to me. And anytime a show has that, I'm out. I'm done. And that was literally the moment I decided to drop it.
I was out so much earlier than that.
He was. I actually started watching it by myself, because I'm like, oh, maybe it'll start getting better. Like, I want to see them interact. I want them to, like, I want to see their falling in love, and then the angst of them, like, going against each other, but not in a stupid way, and they keep making it stupider.
Yeah, I had no interest in them being together. So I was like, what's the point of watching a show where the whole point of the show is she needs to save his soul, and I couldn't care less about either of their souls. Okay, let us come down, let us calm down, let us put the fire back in our bellies, because we got a little passionate there about our distaste for whatever the hell that one was called. I don't even care.
Till the end.
Don't tell me. I don't care. But let's move on to the next one. What's the next one we dropped?
So this one you didn't watch. It's a Thai BL called Step by Step. It's an office romance kind of drama. And I'm going to get heated again.
It sounds like you're really excited to talk about this one. How many episodes did you give it?
I watched 2 episodes.
Okay.
Out of, I think, maybe 8. I don't remember how many. It was supposed to be, just clearly way too long. First and foremost, I really think that there should be a class. And there probably already is a class in film school, but it should be a class where it teaches you transitioning from one scene to another.
Oh, that's really interesting. I don't know if there is a class like that in film school. It's very specific.
It's specific, but so many people do not know how to do it.
You should learn it in like a structure class.
Yeah, so we took cinematic structure, which is a class, and so you understand structure, and I'm not sure every program would have cinematic structure.
No, I actually don't think they do. Now working with people that have gone to film school and creative writing programs elsewhere, they don't learn structure in that specific of a way. They learn it in a very general beginning, middle, end kind of way, but they don't really analyze the structure of film and television the way I think we did in school.
So I've actually noticed a lot of dramas which do this a lot. It's like they just do a bunch of scenes and then throw it against the wall and hopefully everything sticks, because they go from one scene to the next and it's all like someone standing in a room and they're talking, and then the next scene is those same people standing in a different room and talking, and supposedly we're supposed to think that there's like some kind of time lapse where like it's a different day or a different time, whatever it is, right? And it's just they throw a bunch of shit together and then it doesn't actually go together, and you're like, wait, since they were just talking in the last scene, why would they be talking again in the scene? And sometimes like the conversation is very similar, so you're trying to tell me like, oh, there was a time lapse but they're still talking about the same thing. It's just really weird, and it throws you off, and it's so jarring, it doesn't make the show flow. And this is one of those dramas. The lead character, Pat, is so obnoxious to me. Like, he's whiny. Like, all his expectations, it feels so unreal to me. And he's so sensitive, so he gets very, like, offended easily. And it's like, I don't know. It's just so frustrating to watch. And literally, I've only watched 2 episodes. And what I've read from comments is it just gets even worse throughout the show. And I'm so glad I dropped at episode 2, because I didn't want to waste my time and watch till episode 8 or 12 or whatever of them doing the same thing. And it's like he's very like unreasonably like sensitive towards his boss, right? Like literally his boss, and he's like working at this company. I literally don't remember what they do. Everyone's like, oh, we're so sick of these university dramas. We want to see some adults, doing adult things and like a romance within the workspace, right? Which I'm fine with. I don't necessarily think like office romances are a good idea, but whatever, if you want to do an office romance drama, go ahead. But like I think one of the things is like, even though it's an office romance, the content is immature. The writing is immature. You're thinking like, you're putting like these characters who a lot of times are young actors anyway into these situations and still making them seem like a teenager. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the stakes as an adult are very different when you're talking about your work and your career versus drama club.
Yeah.
And like, if you're going to get it past that class or whatever, like the stakes of being an adult and making mistakes in your relationship and with your coworkers and all that is a lot different.
Yeah, and I feel like, especially with the lead character, Pat, like his character is so like immature, but you're a working adult. Like there are times when like you need to like be professional. Why are you being so unprofessional? Kind of thing. And it's just, I don't know. I hated this so much, and it like no amount of actor hotness will fix it for me. Like for me, like, okay, if an actor is good looking and they're in a show, great, eye candy. But if your story sucks and like your premise sucks and everything else sucks, I'm not gonna give it a time of day just because the actor's hot.
I had one question going back to the whole workplace part of it, because sometimes I notice in these dramas, and honestly like TV and drama in general, they set these dramas at a backdrop of a workplace, whatever. It's an office, it's a publishing company, it's a whatever it is. You don't get the feeling that the filmmakers have made any effort at all to know anything about the workplace.
Yes.
Like, they don't know anything about what happens at a publishing company besides sitting behind a desk and shuffling papers and clacking keys. Like, you don't get the idea that anyone on screen knows how to do this job.
Yes.
And that drives me nuts, because now you're just, well, you're in the writer's room or you're in a meeting going, oh, where should they work? I've got a magazine here. Maybe they could be in magazine publishing. Great. Because it won't matter. Fill in the blank of what, they could have been cops. It wouldn't have mattered, because they would just be in the office going, hey, did you get that cop thing done? Yes, sir, I got my cop thing done. Okay, great. Go do more cop things at your desk. Drives me nuts.
It's really, it's so bad. And I didn't even get to, I really like this Thai actor, his name is Up, and he was really good and lovely writer. And so I wanted to see him in this, and then I didn't even get far enough where his character ever mattered in the show, and I already quit because I'm like, I can't watch this. This is infuriating. The characters are like written terribly. I don't understand why. I just recommend more schooling or more like practical like work, you know.
When you say that, what do you mean?
So whoever directed this, whoever wrote this needs more work, needs more training. Whatever, if it's going back to school for more training, or if it's like working under a really like acclaimed writer or director, like they need more work because this sucked.
Maybe they're just talentless.
That too. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about this one because it's pissing me off already.
Okay, let's talk about the next one, which was a Taiwanese drama called Copycat Killer.
I literally don't remember this at all. Like, I don't know if I just blanked and or it was so bad that I put it out of my memory, but I barely remember it.
So I don't really remember it that well either. Something about a serial killer is like kidnapping people, and he's like sending tapes to like the news station or to the cops, and he's taunting them, and I don't remember what the guy wants or what he's trying to achieve, but he's like putting people on camera, and I think it's supposed to be like a real psychological thriller. Like, he wants to know the secret of either one of the cops or one of the journalists because he's got some sort of secret in his past. It was so generic serial killer nonsense that within the first 10 minutes I was out. Like, I emotionally disconnected from this one immediately.
You know, I think, this is the one, okay. So I think the actor the reason why I wanted to watch it is because the actor Chris Wu is in it. The Taiwanese actor Chris Wu, not the Canadian Chinese Chris Wu in jail.
Yeah, there's
not that one.
Not that one.
Yes. But also not the Chris Wu that's in Trapped, or his story Trapped. Because that's another Chris Wu, also Taiwanese.
There's a lot of Chris Wus floating around.
Yes, but this is the other Chris Wu that I used to watch back in like the heyday of Taiwanese dramas. Autumn's Concerto he was in, and he was kind of like upcoming kind of semi-heartthrob Taiwanese actor. But so that's why I wanted to watch it. And then again, I don't even remember what his character was in the show.
I will just say personally, and this is just a personal thing for those people out there who love like true crime and love serial killers, have fun with that. It's a viable genre. A lot of people really enjoy it. I work with other writers who really enjoy it. I hate it. I hate serial killers. I don't think serial killers are interesting. I don't think serial killers are smart. I also don't think serial killers in real life are anything more than people who just haven't been caught. And they're all stupid. And when you read the stories of them, it's not that they were brilliant and got away with it. It's that in society, we just really don't pay that much attention to what our neighbors are doing. We don't realize our neighbor is building a barn in his backyard and loading it with bags that suspiciously look like dead bodies. Like, people don't pay that much attention to each other. And that's why serial killers get away with it. It's not because they're brilliant. and they're all just these like calculating geniuses that have this amazing plan. No, they're fucking idiots.
So I actually had to research serial killers for a past gig of mine. And I actually had to read so much about serial killers. And basically the commonality between them is that they're relatively good looking and they're good like talking to people. And so it's like...
They're manipulators.
Yeah, they're very good manipulators. And that's kind of it.
No, and so I hate drama that chooses to portray serial killers as some just like elite class of like geniuses. That already just rubs me the wrong way. Like I just don't believe that exists in real life, and also in drama, I'm not that interested by it. So that right away, this had like a negative star attached to it anyway. But then you get into it, and you get into the filmmaking. And it's just all so cringe to me. Like the thing where I fully gave up. There was 2 moments where the serial killer is riding around in his van with this girl chained up in the back. And he like rides in front of her like grandpa's shop. And the grandpa's standing out front and his granddaughter's been kidnapped and he's very distraught. It was either his daughter or his granddaughter, I can't even remember.
I think it was granddaughter.
I think it was the granddaughter. And he's very distraught, and he notices that there's this van parked outside of his shop. And there's this tense moment where the girl can see her grandpa, and the grandpa's like, oh, there's a van out front. And he runs, and then just as he runs up to it, the van tears away, and oh my gosh, he didn't get to rescue his granddaughter. There's no reason for that scene to exist in the show. It doesn't move the plot forward. It doesn't give you any more characterization. It's just, like we said before, empty calories. There's nothing nutritious about that scene whatsoever. And I'm like, why in this genius serial killer's mind was that something to waste your time on? You've got this master plan of manipulating people and uncovering the secrets of bad guys or whatever is in your mind, and you decided to drive this girl on her van and park in front of her grandpa's shop just to be a dick.
So yeah, I think that was what he was going for, was that he wanted to... It's the writer's way of making him, the serial killer, like, more detestable. Like, just... You know what I mean? Like, he's more twisted and all that stuff. And it's like, he's fucking with them. But,
sure, because, like, ripping her guts out and hanging her in a crucifix isn't enough.
Yeah. So it's just, I didn't even remember that scene until you started talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I do remember this scene. But yeah, I think I totally tried to take it out of my brain, because at the same time we were watching Oh No, Here Comes Trouble, and it both Taiwanese, and like Oh No, Here Comes Trouble was so good and so well laid out, whereas this one was trying way too hard. Just like when you put a lot of dressing on it, but like there's no substance.
This one to me screamed of desperation as from a filmmaker's perspective. And it really, people always ask me like, oh, as someone who makes TV, like, are you able to just watch television and enjoy it? And the 90% of the time I'm just able to watch TV and just enjoy it. When I stop enjoying it is when I start seeing the priorities of the filmmakers and the writers be not the story. So like, this is a perfect example. In this drama, the granddaughter ends up dead. Sorry, spoiler alert. I'm going to save you from having to watch this piece of shit. The granddaughter gets basically crucified and hung out like on a cross, like suspended in the air. It's gruesome. It's shock value. Like, it's what the director wants you to see. Like, oh my gosh, this demented man has mutilated this girl, and he's literally hung her from a cross. And the cops cordon off the scene. You know, because you wouldn't want the general public to come upon such a scene. Except for they let the grandfather come to the scene and witness his granddaughter in such a state. Like, wow. How to traumatize this old man even further is to allow him to see this and like, oh, you need to come and identify the body. When it's still being strung up, you inconsiderate pricks.
Yeah. And that's not how you do it, by the way. That's just bad detective work. That's like not.
But could you imagine in real life the police being like, hey, so like, we found your husband, come look at him. Like, under those circumstances, like, that's insane to even think that another human being would do that to a victim. So then you have to start asking yourself, well, why does this scene exist? Because the director and the writer wanted this big dramatic scene where the grandfather runs in and sees his, oh my God, she's dead. And like the first time he sees that she's dead isn't on a morgue table, it's in this horrible situation. Okay, I get that you want that as a filmmaker, but you just made all of your characters so fucking stupid by doing that. So now you've placed your priority as a shot maker and a drama teller above the priority of your characters being coherent characters in your story. So you've lost all credibility with me. Like, you're done. The second I start going, I know why this scene exists, because the writer and director wanted the shock value of him seeing her like this. And he wanted that on his knees and crying at his granddaughters hanging there, breezing in the wind. It's gross. It's just shock value. It's no substance. It's amateur hour to the 50th power. And that's why you only give a show like that 2 episodes. Because, honestly, fuck these guys.
So the next show we're going to talk about that we dropped was Under the Microscope. It's a Chinese costume drama that basically the lead character is obsessed with numbers. Like, he just does a lot of math.
He's borderline autistic, isn't it? They kind of hint
he's on the spectrum, probably.
Yeah, they hint that he's kind of autistic. He can kind of see numbers in his mind. You know what's funny? This one I don't have as like so much violent feelings against as some of the other shows.
You know, I don't dislike it in terms of like the actors are really good. Like, I like them all. You know, so the acting is like spot on. Sometimes it actually is kind of clever. It's just that I personally like hate math, and it felt like I was sitting through like a bunch of like math classes, and and also like I just don't really care. Like, I don't care about the characters. I don't care about the case that he's gonna solve. I got bored, so I just kind of sat there and then played on my phone, and then, yeah, because math sucks. I mean, in my opinion.
You don't have to say that. I think everyone thinks sitting through math class is a little boring. I will agree with you that I think that the acting, the sets, the costume, like, when you look at if you were to watch this show with the sound off, you would go, oh yeah, this is a costume drama. They've put effort behind it. The directing seemed competent. The camera moves, like there was nothing distracting about it. There's nothing bad about the craft. I just think it's a bad premise. So I don't like doing my own taxes. I don't like spending time with my own accountant. So literally watching ancient times forensic accounting, I couldn't care less. Like, the premise of the show is like there's been money that's been shared between these different kind of villages, and that someone like fudged the numbers so that one place was getting more or getting, who cares?
Or
like
one town is paying more taxes than the other towns.
Yeah. Whoa. Dramatic. And I get it, like that, like violent things happen behind the scenes to make this so. Like, there were killings and there were people that were like victimized. But like the thing our main character is figuring out is he's looking through books and crunching numbers to figure out who paid too much taxes. I don't care. I think this one should have died on the premise vine. Like, someone somewhere was like, you know what's really interesting? Forensic accounting. And I'll give that to you in a world way. Like, there's like, I read a lot of like spy novels and even reading a lot of spy books for work, like true to life, like spy stories written by Mossad and KGB and CIA. A lot of the way they trip up the bad guys is they follow the money. They run the money down. And there's some really interesting stories of how they ran this obscure money down to blow entire invasions. Like, countries were planning to invade other countries, and it was all, like, everything was screwed up by ordering a steak dinner. And you're like, whoa, that's so crazy. Like, that's interesting when you hear about it in a sort of like New Yorker article context. don't make me sit through episode upon episode of doing my taxes. I just don't want to. And there's no way to make it sexy. There's that show on CBS, Numbers, for a while, where like you use numbers to solve crimes. I didn't watch that either. I know some people did. It ran for a while. I just don't care.
That was way more interesting though than this. I actually did watch Numbers, like not all the time, but I watched a few episodes. It was more interesting than this Under the Microscope.
Yeah, I had a hard time I'm at a disadvantage already watching this because you're watching him crunch numbers through subtitles, which is extra difficult to kind of just keep it straight. I actually find when I'm watching things that have subtitles, it's really hard for me to keep conspiracy straight because the names that they say on the subtitles aren't always consistent. Sometimes they'll call someone Big Brother, and then sometimes they'll call them by their name, and sometimes they'll call them by their nickname. So the subtitles are like often very confusing to me. And I'm like, wait, is that the same guy that they're talking about? No, that's a different guy. So already when we're talking about vast conspiracy stories, it's hard for me to keep track while trying to read subtitles. So then you add math to it. And I am just not smart enough. So maybe that's why I hated this show. I'm not smart enough. But otherwise, I just think it was real boring.
Yeah. So that's why we dropped it.
So what's next on the list?
So it's a Japanese BL called Zenra Meshi, or Naked Dining, which I think a lot of the international fans would know it as. It's basically about this guy, an ace in the workplace. He does a lot of work things. And then he also is kind of like a yes man. So when he gets off work and he goes home to de-stress, he strips off his clothes and he's naked and he eats food. So it's like ramen or whatever, and he cooks it and then he eats it. They, in the drama, make it seem like it's really almost perverted. But if I think about it and I'm like, okay, I'm had a hard day's work. And honestly, the first thing I do when I walk through the door and close it, I take off my pants. It's kind of what I do. And so, I don't think it's that big of a deal to, in your own home, in your own private space, walk around naked, live naked, whatever, you do you. And so, eating naked is not, that weird to me in terms of, but the way they shoot it, the way they, see it, is it's a kink. It's a kind of perverted, and I don't really see it that way. But then his grandma passes away, and so he has to go back to his hometown and his grandma's place and kind of organize things. And then this guy kind of comes in while he's about to eat dinner naked. This guy comes in, and it's his grandma's friend, which is a young grocery delivery boy. So then they kind of get close to each other, and he learns more about his own grandma through this grocery delivery boy, and then they become friends. And then they every weekend they get together and make a new dish that his grandma wanted to make, and it's some kind of international dish that because his grandma was oh, I can't go travel, but I would learn the culture and the culture's food through recipes. So then she would want to make those recipes, and she was waiting to do it with her grandson, but he never made it home, and so then his grandma passes away, so he never got to cook with his grandma. So instead he cooks with this grocery boy. And then feelings develop. And then the thing is, he doesn't know if his feelings are true. And then you find out this grocery boy and him went to high school together. And so, and the grocery boy had a crush on him this whole time. It's boring as fuck, but, it's not that boring. It's just, there was really no chemistry between the two actors. It was awkward. So it's called Naked Dining. And the whole thing is naked dining for him, it helps him de-stress, right? And then he finds a replacement for naked dining, which is the grocery boy. And he ends up cooking and eating with the grocery boy is his way to de-stress. And then he throws naked dining out of the window and out of the table.
Did they change the name of the show at the end because he doesn't die naked anymore?
No, they didn't change it. But it was just kind of like dumb. Like, okay, your naked dining lasts all of like 2 or 3 episodes. And then I think like there wasn't that many episodes, maybe like 12 episodes. So like most of your show, he's not naked dining. So it's just kind of like, well, that's a dumb name for it anyway. And then like the emphasis on naked dining and what it does for him is also thrown out. So it's just dumb, first of all. Second of all, this was the other show that in order to run away from his feelings for a grocery boy, he ends up dating a coworker that has a crush on him. And the coworker totally knows that he has a crush on the grocery boy, and they have a special relationship. But because she likes him, she's gonna be like, you should date me. And then he's like, okay, I'll date you because I'm confused about this grocery boy. I fucking hate it. And that's exactly where I dropped it again, is that when he decides to date the girl that he has no feelings for at all, that's where I'm out.
I always wonder, like, for the characters, but also for the writers and stuff, of like, why do you want to date someone where there's no possibility of it going well? Like, I get a lot of relationships start in awkward places, and then the reason that they work or don't work are the circumstances that you surround yourself with. But sometimes it's like, all right, I don't like you, but I know you like me. I like somebody else, but I'll date you. How do you hope that goes? And then for her, knowing he really is not that into you, but then he's into someone else, but then decides to date you, you're just like, oh, I'm just going to change his mind so drastically. Like, why is anyone happy with that scenario?
Yeah. So this was actually based off of a manga. I didn't read the manga before, so I don't know how closely it follows the manga. But if it's the same, it's the writer's way. It's schmuckbait, really. They wrote themselves into a situation, and they don't know how to write themselves out of it, so then they just throw in this character. Because, like, love triangles or, like, love obstacles is so easy to, like, just stick in that, like, this random character that, like, knows, like, the audience knows the guy's not going to end up with her. Like, for her to, like, show up with, like, no real, like, connection in the first place, it's so cheap. You know, it's just this easy thing to do because you don't know how to end it well. Or, like, you don't know how to, like, get yourself out of this, like, you know, sexual confusion or, like, you know, emotional confusion. So you're just going to be like, okay, let's have our lead character date some rando.
Oh, I know how to fix this one so much.
Okay, go ahead.
I know how to make this into a really good story.
Okay.
Because there's some elements here that I'm, like, thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I mean, it would be a completely different story. But I could see a story where a grandmother, an aging grandmother, has always wanted to travel with her grandson. She's always wanted to travel, but you know what? Kids, after a while, stop visiting, and they get busy, and they get jobs. And so she's been sitting here waiting to travel with her grandson, and he's like a good grandson. He calls her, and he, like, visits her, but, like, they've always been planning that trip, and they've never taken it. And then she gets sick, and she can no longer travel. And he realizes that dream is basically gone. And to make it up to her, they decide they're going to do a traveling in her kitchen. And so it's a story between him and his grandmother, who are traveling by having groceries delivered or going to the grocery store, going to the Indian market down the street, and, like, finding these flavors that help his grandmother go to these places. Finding these flavors that allow his grandmother to travel without traveling now that she's no longer able. And then over the course of it, meeting a love interest who's delivering groceries to them and who kind of gets roped into their story, and they start developing a relationship, and coming down to, like, him wanting to do one final thing for his grandmother. Like, maybe they're on the border of another country, another city, and it's like, well, she's not supposed to leave the old folks home, but, like, I have this opportunity that if I go with her, I can take her to wherever, pick the spot. But there's something really important happening for the boyfriend at the same time. So he has to blow off one of them. And the love story being, the boyfriend's okay being blown off because he knows how much the grandmother thing means to him. And so it's that choice in a relationship when you go to the person you're with and you're like, I can't be there for you for your most important moment because I have a most important moment. And that person going, go do your thing. I'll be here when you get back. Like, that's a fucking story. And that would have taken so many of the elements. Like the fact that grandmother dies, to me, as soon as you start, I'm like, that's wrong. Like the love triangle should be his love for family and granting these wishes for this woman that he kind of put off. He let life get in the way of having this relationship. And now he could be making the same mistake with this guy if he's letting the life with the grandmother get in the way. But you can have both. You can have life, you can have love all at once. There's a way to do this story that's so good.
Yeah, and then it wouldn't be naked dining because there would be no eating while naked.
Yeah, that part, that was the other thing I was going to say. When you were like, they shot it kind of like to make him a pervert, I was trying to think in what context I would pitch a character going home and dining naked. The only context I could think other than like broad comedy, like picture Zach Galifianakis like spilling hot chili down his pants, like other than that is as a perversion. Like it's something a villain would do. Like he would go home and he would open the curtains so all of his neighbors can see him, and then he would sit on the couch completely naked and he would eat. Like I could only see that as just to demonstrate the perversion of a character, even though it's not really that weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. Otherwise, I think you would just get laughed out of the writer's room for pitching that.
Yeah. So like, I don't mean to like offend anybody who maybe likes this manga or the writer of the original content, the manga. It's just like you can tell they're like, what if this would be kind of a silly thing? What if this person eats naked? That's so weird. That's so like cringe. And then they base everything off of this. And then clearly they couldn't even keep up with it because they throw that shit out the window and he's barely ever eating naked. So it's just, I don't know. It's weak. It's weak writing.
Doesn't seem like something that either of us would have finished.
No.
So as far as recommendations this week, I wanted to actually recommend a video game because it feels like we talked a lot about dramas that couldn't get things right. I find it that there's no excuse that, oh, I'm doing a student film. I don't have the time or money or effort to make a good story. Or, oh, I'm doing a Thai BL, so they haven't given us the budget that other people have or whatever. There's no really excuse to making bad story content. I understand limitations of budget and things, but good story comes out of your mind. Good execution comes out of your mind. It can happen in any artistic form. And so I thought we might recommend the video game Ghosts of Tsushima, which is a 2020 game by Sony Interactive Entertainment, where you play first person. I guess it's actually third person. It's not quite a first person shooter, but you play a samurai protecting his home from a Mongol invasion. And the story is layered and interesting, and it has twists and it turns, and at one point had me screaming at the TV for a couple of the things it did to me story-wise. But it just goes to show you how even an interactive game, it's just a game, can really give you a full immersive story experience, and had done it really well. It was really entertaining. The gameplay was really good for those gamers out there. If you're not a gamer, I think you can actually even just go watch the cutscenes on YouTube. A lot of different gamer channels will do just all the cutscenes lined up together so you can just watch the story of the game without having to play it. So if you're not into video games and just want to watch the story, you can do that usually on YouTube. But highly recommend it. A really fun game to play. Good twists and turns. It almost leaves you wanting a sequel, except there's no room for a sequel because the story's kind of complete. But yeah, if you are into games and into storytelling, check that out. It's called Ghosts of Tsushima.
I have a question. Is this actually based off of a real character or like a real story?
I actually have no idea. It's set during the kind of occupation of Genghis Khan. I think one of the big bad guys of it is like Genghis Khan's like nephew, who they've basically sent off to continue to expand the Mongol Empire. And you kind of get the idea that Genghis Khan has conquered as much as he's conquered, and he knows that if you don't have warriors that go off to war, then they start thinking about rebellion. And so he keeps sending his family members who he feels otherwise would rebel against him. He sent them off to the far-flung reaches. And their first move in order to attack Japan is taking this small island kind of off the coast of the main islands of Japan, the island of Tsushima. And so this is the first kind of stronghold that is letting the Mongols get their foothold into Japan. I don't know any of the historical significance. I haven't read up on it enough to know if this is 2% true, 10% true, or a lot true. But either way, I thought it was a really interesting backdrop. It's kind of in the tradition of Assassin's Creed. It kind of pulls from history. Whether or not it does any true history in it, I don't know that. And that does it for this week on the Drama Means podcast. Please join us next week when we talk about Destined next week?
Yes.
Which is a Chinese costume drama. And we'll be talking about the ins and outs of that. And I promise we liked it more than anything we talked about this week. So thank you so much for listening, and come back and listen to us again.
Yep, see you next week.